the enthusiasm you have instilled in us all. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
moving on, we are delighted to announce that an eminent personality, Mr. Aditya Seth, Director, Drishya Movies Private Limited, founder and course director, Indian Academy of Shorts, has just joined us. Mr. Aditya Seth is an internationally acclaimed independent award-winning documentary short corporate filmmaker with a sound grounding in theater and music. He has been involved in the making of short films, documentaries, and TV programs in all genres for national as well as international audiences. His films have captivated audiences from all the age groups, weaving complex narratives with stunning visuals that challenge and inspire. From award-winning feature films to groundbreaking documentaries, Mr. Seth has consistently pushed the boundaries of storytelling, earning accolades and awards at many prestigious film festivals. He's also an academician and professor of filmmaking. He teaches filmmaking and related media at the undergraduate and postgraduate level. In the classroom, he nurtures the next generation of filmmakers with a passion for innovation and a commitment to excellence. His expertise has been pivotal in shaping the perspectives and careers of aspiring directors and producers. He's also a certified master trainer for Media and Entertainment Skills Council, Skills India, and master assessor for National Skills Development Council India. He's a former president of Indian Documentary Producers Association. Today, Mr. Aditya Seth is here to share his insights on outsourcing of intellect, offering us a unique glimpse into opportunities and dilemmas posed by the outsourcing of intellect. This trend raises complex questions and challenges. How does the outsourcing of intellectual and creative work impact job markets in both the sourcing and receiving countries? As we navigate through the discussion, we will uncover not only the economic and technological dimensions, but also the ethical and social considerations that it entails. Without further ado, please extend a warm welcome to Mr. Aditya Seth. Over to you, Mr. Seth.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that amazing welcome and the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here in this conference. I hope you can hear me and see me, everybody. There's no lag or network issue.
Yes, you're very much audible.
All right.
Sir.
All right. Yeah. I'm not sure how you've interpreted the topic on which I'm going to speak today, but you'll get to know what I'm talking about as we go along. Firstly, I want to thank the management and the organizers of this wonderful conference. I want to especially thank Dr. Rana and Mr. Dariwal for recommending and including me into this conference. As I told him, I'm not much of a tech expert or a scientist or an engineer. I'm a communications expert, and that's what I've been doing for a better part of my life, both as a practitioner, as a filmmaker, and as a teacher of filmmaking. And I am going to reflect on how tech is impacting us as users, as consumers, as people, and how the way tech is going, the future of tech is going. Is it going to impact us further? And what are the various danger areas that I envisage and that I believe need reflection and need to be looked at very, very seriously. We're up against some very serious developments for future generations. So, yeah, without much ado, I'm talking about outsourcing of our intellect. I'll come to the topic later. Let me just kind of contextualize what I want to speak about. Your conference is about communications, computer sciences, and engineering. Now, the one common thing that binds them together is technology. And we today are inundated with technology. We don't have an option but to engage with technology. We don't have an option but to use technology. We don't have an option but to get technologically aware and educated, whether we like it or not. There was a time when it was not a need. There was a time when life was simpler. There was a time when technology did not rule our lives or did not dictate how we communicate or how we use uh, the tools that are given to us. Life was analogous. When I started off professionally, I was working with analog video. Film was a physical medium. There was nothing very technologically or electronically or digitally present in our realms those days because those things hadn't been invented yet. Uh, I bought my first computer in 1995, and I remember trying to figure out how to use it. I blew the OS, and I had to call in an engineer to kind of reinstall the OS and get it going again. And it took me a while to get to come to terms with and to get to grips with how computers work. Although I had been tech enabled in using video equipment, making films, editing them, using cameras, but those were not as daunting as a computer seemed to be. And one was always little worried about, how I would be able to use it. But eventually one figured it out. And of course, then things moved by leaps and bounds. We skipped a generation of mobile telephony in India. We went straight from regular telephones to the digital generation. So we skipped the analog generation, which the West went through. We were enabled in a much evolved and better technological environment before we knew it. And soon enough, we went from basic phones like Nokia to BlackBerry to smartphone. And I remember in one of my classes in 2005, I remember that very vividly. I had told my students, it was not some great prediction, but I had told my students that one day everything is going to come into this telephone. And sure enough, it's happened, right? Today we find telephones indispensable. Our smartphones are our lives. Everything is in the phone. And if we lose it, we all have panic attacks. We have to file FIRs. We have to make sure that nobody else gets access to our phone. Because our entire life, our entire outreach at various levels has been digitized, as I said earlier. And we are so dependent on this gadget that without it, our lives tend to lose meaning, which is a little scary. But then that's how it's become. It's been a great enabler also. Everybody and anybody can use a smartphone today. For banking, for communication, for entertainment. Entertainment more so than anything else, and of course for information. But it's moving in directions which seem to be having some ominous outcomes eventually. The first thing, and I'll cut to the chase, and I'll come straight to what I really want to talk about. I want to talk about the applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning. When we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning, the entire focus, as far as I've seen, I've read, I've heard, I've discussed, seems to be that AI is going to be threatening a lot of jobs. And AI is going to be threatening our lives as we go along, as computers may take over the world. I'm not so sure if that's going to happen in a hurry. Maybe, maybe not. But what AI is definitely going to do, and is doing, with softwares like ChatGPT and which are evolving, which will evolve into more sophisticated and better versions as we go along, it will slowly but surely take away our need to think. And that, I think, is the biggest danger. The biggest danger is our dependability on technology to outsource our minds to it. Where, especially coming from the realm I come from, communications, storytelling, and creating stories, making films, teaching communication and media. If I'm going to be completely dependent on a computer to tell me or to create the communication for me, to create the story for me, and therefore my students, already deep fakes are taking over our lives. We don't know what we're watching, how real it is, how fake it is. And eventually we're going to outsource everything to a computer, which anyways is not going to necessarily be human, however human you may make it. It will be dependent on the information that has been put into it. Yes, more sensitivity is coming into computers. We're already seeing fake robots, which are human, which behave like humans. In fact, I saw a film the other day, a Hindi movie, where there's a robot who falls in love with, I think, Shahid Kapoor's character. Girl is Kirti Sun. Very interesting, but that is what the future is. And we're already seeing AI generated girlfriends, boyfriends, communication. So social media has gone to the next level. Social media has come into our lives as in a very real form. Yes, you and I are not yet consuming it, but we will be before you know it, or our kids certainly will. Our kids' kids most for sure will. And if that happens, then what happens? What is the danger? Is what I'm talking about. As it is, ADHD is rampant. We are all suffering from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Our attention spans are 15 seconds to 20 seconds. We are bombarded by information. We're bombarded by messages. We're bombarded by communication. And before we can come to terms with one, there's another one which we have to deal with. There's another one which hits us. And there's this cauldron of information in our minds, and we spend most of our time trying to make sense of it. We spend most of our time just trying to understand what it's trying to say and whether it's necessarily right, whether it's necessarily, are we necessarily interpreting it the way we are meant to? And what should we be doing with it? Now, if we get into, and it will, it already is, if something like a chat GPT becomes a part of our daily lives, then what happens? We are outsourcing our intelligence or the possibility of a level of intellectual thought to a machine. Now, why can it never reach a level of intellectual thought? Because there's no rigor there. There are only prompts. We figure out prompts, we put it into the machine gives us information. It could be in the form of a story or a presentation or even a doctoral thesis. Based on the information given, based on the prompts given, it creates the whole thing for you, writes the whole thing out for you, and you've done it already. In fact, there is this website called Audible. You may have heard of it. Now, what Audible does is Audible creates audiobooks and creates digital books for you to read. And most of the people who are creating this content for Audible are not necessarily writing the stories themselves. They are only putting in prompts. And ChatGPT creates the story, creates the audio, creates the script or the storyline. And it is being consumed by millions of people across the world who are buying it. So we are already seeing that information, be it in the form of entertainment or be it in the form of education, is being dictated back to the masses through a computer-driven program, which is not necessarily taking into consideration simple things like emotions, like spontaneity, like out-of-the-box thinking, like, none of these things are there. I mean, we are, and slowly but surely, there is a permeation of computer-generated information and communication into our lives without us having much of a say in the matter. That, I believe, is really the biggest fear. Google is already live. Nobody reads books anymore. Nobody goes to a library to pick up a book and do any research. I'm not talking about the academics here. I'm sure all of you go to libraries and pick up books and read them. But I'm talking about kids today. I'm talking about the students today. And I've been teaching since 1997. And I'm very sorry to say this, but every year, the awareness level of students only seems to be going down. And without them going to a search engine, they don't really seem to have the answers to most things, which came to us naturally because we read books. Because we engaged with knowledge at the level of knowledge. Today, information is knowledge. True knowledge is not pursued anymore. It is slowly but surely diminishing in a very, very drastic manner. And like I said, if everything is going to be created through an AI application, then what are we supposed to do with our minds? What would the coming generations be doing with their minds? Will they be doing anything at all? Or would they just be putting in prompts? Even the prompts, I'm sure after some time, will come in a pre-programmed form where you pick and choose, cut and paste, and input it, and you get an output. So this is what is seriously worrying, as what will the students of tomorrow or the kids of tomorrow be doing for themselves? Will they all have perpetual brain fog? Will there be mental fatigue without really doing much? What are the applications of life? What are the challenges of life? What are the other problems of life going to be doing for them or them for it? And everything is technologically enabled and easy to access and very easily programmable. So eventually what? We're going to be programs ourselves. Is that where we are headed? And unfortunately, the biggest worry is the mind will stop thinking because it's also easy to access as far as doing things is concerned. We will be creating homogeneity in information and thought. There'll be no individuality left anymore. Everybody will be thinking like a program thinks for them. And in that process, we will create more and more isolation. There'll be more virtual lives. Nobody will really care for anybody else. If you look at social media today, and if you go to Twitter, and if you look at the accounts of most of the girls who are in their late teens or in their mid-20s, everybody seems to be suffering from some sort of mental disorder. Now, I'm not saying that I have a problem with mental disorder. I'm saying that the kind of society we built around ourselves, which is isolating people so completely, is most certainly going to be leading to invalidation and to mental disorders and depression. And we're seeing more and more cases of depression coming. So this dependability on technology does have a flip side. Technology is a fantastic enabler. It gives us many wonderful things. It has given us many wonderful things. But at the same time, it is giving us a false sense of well-being. It is also giving us an isolated life where we, our devices, our computers, and us are totally, completely packaged into a program of our own creation with the technology that is being, bombarded on us, if I may use the word, or which we are engaging with, whether we want to or not. Now, the basic thing here is, I'll just read out one little. Just give me a minute, please. Yeah. Now, at the core of AI transformative power are neural networks inspired by the human brain's architecture. These networks consist of layers of interconnected nodes or neurons, which process input data through a series of calculations. Now, is the human brain only calculation? The human brain is not only calculation. Human brain is based on emotions, is based on spontaneity, is based on individuality, is based on reactions, reflections, and how we imbibe life and how we respond to it. But as I just read out, if everything is going to be a calculated response or a calculated program, then can you imagine what's going to become to the human mind going forward? It's a very serious thing to be. And since this conference is full of technological experts, I think this is something which needs to be dealt with at a very serious level and needs to be reflected on. Unless what we want is to turn into androids and robots as we go forward. And that's the end of the human race, which anyways we're making sure it's going to end very soon with the kind of wars and the kind of madness going on all around the world. But till it exists, shouldn't humanity or shouldn't the human perspective exist? Shouldn't the human condition exist the way it is? The other danger is, what about problem solving? Are we going to outsource our problem solving? What about the challenges that life throws up at us? Are we going to outsource the answers to those challenges to a machine? I don't think that's possible because a machine, and I was just reading this yesterday on Twitter. Now it's called X. I keep saying Twitter, bad habit. There was this guy who went to an AI-enabled computer and said, I give you $100,000, make me money. And many people contributed to that entire endeavor. And of course, the computer could not make any money. So it only reached a certain level after making a website, that too because of donations. But there was no real generation of revenue as far as the AI program was concerned. So there are limits. There are limits to this. There is only so much that can be done as of now, but maybe tomorrow things may change again. And what about without, to put it in a nutshell, without exposure to language, social interactions, sensory stimuli, or any form of information, a brain would lack the necessary input to form connections between neurons, develop neural networks, and process information effectively. The brain relies on experiences and learning to build a framework of knowledge and understanding of the world. So what would remain of knowledge building or seeking experiences of life? Understanding and learning? Nada, nothingness. I'm sorry, I may sound like a doomsday philosopher here, but I'm certain that this is going to happen. Because in the past 10 years, the way the digital revolution has taken over our lives, taken over our minds, social media is completely engulfing us. Reels, right, which are also entertaining and informative. And there's a lot of rubbish out there which is coming out. And there's a lot of deviance happening. Like I said earlier, depression, mental illness, deviance, outsourcing of thinking. What is the future of the world? Where are these kids going? Would they be capable of running things the way they are? I'm not saying things are great. Not at all. Things are going from bad to worse, and that is the worry. So all these things are going to come together. And in a sense, it's going to make life very, very complicated, and it's going to make life unrecognizable. Would that necessarily be a good thing? Is what we need to ask ourselves. Ma'am, you're saying something, but I can't hear you. Anyway, I will open it up to questions. I'm open to a discussion after this. So, without saying much more, I think I've taken up a bit of time. When I say nada, nothingness, and in a sense, excuse me, my screen has got minimized. Yeah, right. Thank you. So, in a sense, when there is no learning, and we've never been taught anything, or we've only been taught basics, and the rest machines are doing for us, and the machines are trying to make sense of the world or engage in complex cognitive processes. Where is the essential understanding and navigating the environment? Where is learning and education, fundamental aspects of brain development, and crucial for shaping cognitive abilities and intellectual capacities? So I see a future where mental fatigue would be a given. I see a future where no challenges beyond a point would bother the mind. I see a future of non-thinking, very lazy, very lackadaisical, very entitled, and extremely unenergetic human beings. Unless we make sure that there are checks and balances within the computer revolution and the software revolution and AI and machine learning that keeps the humans and the human mind in as an entity in the center of this entire exercise as a pivot, and make sure that redundancy does not set in. Otherwise, like I said, kids of today don't think, they don't read, they don't go to libraries. Google is life. They want to outsource everything. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is not information anymore. It's not needed. So the future of the mind and the need of the intellect and the way the mind is going to evolve is most certainly a danger. And I see very, very copy-paste kind of stories, copy-paste kind of films, copy-paste kind of things coming out, where there will not necessarily be any original thought left, because there will be no exposure or experience to original thought left, since everything would be program enabled. And this is an appeal to everybody out there to think about these things rather than worry only about jobs and computers taking over the world. Computers taking over our mind is a more dangerous, according to me, is a more dangerous issue to be grappled with. Thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much. Any questions, any doubts, any discussion? You want to beat me up? I'm open to it. Thank you.
Thank you for delivering such a compelling and insightful address, Mr. Seth. Your expertise and thoughtful exploration of the topic have, greatly enriched our conference, sparking meaningful dialogue and inspiring us all. We are deeply appreciative of the knowledge and energy you brought to the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Well, now I request Dr. Nandita Tripathi, Domain Head